Ethan finished his late shift on the mining moon called Arden 6. The night was quiet, and the cold wind outside the metal walls made soft echoes in the empty halls. Most workers had already gone to their quarters. Only a few machines hummed in the background. Ethan liked these quiet hours. He could think clearly when everyone else was asleep. The station lights were dim at night, set to save power. As Ethan walked toward the exit, he heard a sound. It was soft at first, like a small whimper. He stopped and listened carefully. The sound came again, a faint and trembling cry. At first, he thought it was the noise from a loose cable or a machine failing. But no machine cried like a child. He turned toward the old cargo bay. No one used that place anymore. It was cold, dark, and full of dusty crates that had been forgotten years ago. Ethan felt unsure. No children lived on the mining moon. The workers came without families because the place was too dangerous and lonely. So why would a child be here? Curiosity pushed him forward. He walked slowly, his boots making dull echoes on the metal floor. The crying grew a bit louder, sounded scared and alone. Ethan felt a strange worry growing inside him. He reached the doorway of the cargo bay and stopped. The room was almost completely dark, except for a faint blue emergency light in the corner. The air inside felt colder than the hallway. Ethan stepped in carefully, letting his eyes adjust. That was when he saw it. A small shape curled near a pile of crates. It was shaking. The crying was coming from there. Ethan moved closer, careful not to scare the small figure. As he got near, he realized it was not a human child. It was a small dragon child, no bigger than a human toddler. Its body was covered in soft silver-blue scales that reflected the weak light. Tiny wings folded tightly against its back. Its tail wrapped around its body as it shivered. Ethan froze in surprise. Dragons almost never came to human territory, and their young were guarded more strictly than treasure. He had never seen a dragon child up close. This was more than strange. It was impossible. The child lifted its head. Its eyes were bright and full of fear. When it saw Ethan, it pushed itself back against the crates, trembling even harder. The little dragon hugged its knees, trying to make itself smaller. Ethan slowly lowered himself to one knee. He kept his voice soft. "Hey," he said. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." The dragon child did not speak. Instead, it covered its face with its small hands and cried again. The sound hit Ethan in a way he did not expect. Something about it felt wrong. No child should cry like that, not human or dragon. He removed his jacket and held it open. "You must be cold," he whispered. "Here, let me help." He moved slowly. The dragon child peeked through its fingers, watching him with frightened eyes. When Ethan draped the jacket around the small creature, the child flinched at first, but then relaxed when it felt the warmth. Pulled the jacket close, wrapping itself in the soft fabric. Without thinking, Ethan reached out gently and touched the child's shoulder. The dragon did not pull away. Instead, it leaned in just slightly, as if desperate for comfort. Ethan gave a small, warm smile. "There you go. You're safe. I promise." He knew he had to report this to someone, maybe station security or command. But something inside him stopped him. This was not just a lost creature. This was a frightened child. He felt responsible now. "How did you get here?" Ethan asked softly. The dragon child did not answer. It simply curled closer, shaking less now but still breathing fast. Ethan sat beside the child, keeping a small distance so it would not feel trapped. He watched the tiny creature's glowing scales. They shimmered gently each time the child breathed. Minutes passed. The cargo bay was cold, but Ethan did not leave. The child needed someone, and right now he was the only one there. Slowly, the dragon child pressed its forehead against his arm. Ethan stayed completely still. He understood the gesture. It was a sign of trust, even if only a little. He looked at the child, wrapped in his jacket, trembling less now, and he felt something shift inside him. He had no idea why the child was here. He had no idea what trouble it might bring. But one thing was clear in his mind. He could not leave the child alone. Ethan carefully picked the small dragon up. It was light like lifting a human toddler. The child held onto him tightly, as if afraid he might disappear. Ethan whispered, "It's all right. I'm taking you somewhere warm." He walked out of the cargo bay and into the dim hallway. The child rested its head against his chest, finally starting to calm down. Ethan did not know it yet, but this simple act, lifting a crying dragon child from a cold, dark room, was the moment his life changed forever. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, forces were already moving because of the child now sleeping in his arms. Ethan brought the small dragon child back to his small room in the mining station. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and warm air washed over them. The child in his arms relaxed a little, feeling the sudden change in temperature. Ethan stepped inside and gently placed the dragon on his bed. The child looked around with wide, curious eyes, still wrapped tightly in his jacket. The room was simple. A narrow bed, a desk full of tools, and a heater that made a soft humming sound. The child seemed to like the heater. Its silver-blue scales glowed faintly as the warmth touched them. Ethan crouched down so he wouldn't look too tall or threatening. "You're safe here," he said softly. "No one will hurt you." The dragon child looked at him, studying his face as if trying to judge whether to trust him. Then it curled up on the blanket, holding the jacket close. Ethan's mind was racing. He knew dragons were powerful and far beyond human knowledge. Humans and dragons lived in different parts of the galaxy, and dragons rarely allowed humans near their territory. Even fewer had ever seen a dragon child. Something about this situation felt wrong. He stood up and walked to his desk. He picked up a small food container and opened it. The smell of warm stew filled the room. He held it out carefully. "Do you want some food?" The child sniffed the air. Its eyes brightened a little, but it still hesitated. Slowly, very slowly, it reached out with tiny claws and took the container. Tried a small bite, then another. Soon the child was eating happily. Ethan felt relieved. At least the child wasn't starving. He tapped a button on his wrist communicator. "Lena, are you awake?" he whispered. Static crackled. Then a tired voice answered. "Ethan? It's the middle of the night. What's wrong? I need you to come to my room. And please come quietly." There was a long pause. "Ethan, what did you do this time?" "Please, Lena. It's important." Sighing came through the speaker. Then, "Fine. I'm coming." Ethan returned to the bed and sat on the floor nearby. The child had finished eating and was now holding the empty container with both hands. It looked up at Ethan again, then whispered something very soft. "Kale." Ethan blinked. Is that your name?" The child nodded slowly. Before Ethan could ask anything else, the door chimed quietly. He opened it fast, pulling Lena inside. Lena was a medic on the station. She was smart, calm, and someone Ethan trusted deeply. When she stepped into the room and saw Kale sitting on the bed, her eyes widened, and her breath caught. "Ethan," she whispered sharply, "that's a dragon child." "I know. What is it doing here?" "I found him in the old cargo bay, alone, crying." Lena stepped closer to Kale but kept her hands visible so she wouldn't scare him. "Dragons never leave their children unguarded," she said. "Never. Something is very wrong." Kale stared at her with large silver eyes. His scales shimmered again, brighter this time, as if responding to emotion. Ethan noticed something strange. When Lena moved near the heater, the lights flickered for a moment. At the same time, Kale's scales glowed stronger, and the lights steadied again. Ethan pointed. "Did you see that?" Lena frowned. "That's impossible. Human equipment doesn't react to dragon energy like that." "Not unless—" She stopped, her face going pale. "Not unless what?" Ethan asked. "Unless the child comes from a very powerful bloodline." Kale lowered his head, as if hiding something. Ethan sat down beside the bed. "Kale," he said gently, "did someone hurt you?" The child nodded, small and scared. Lena's voice softened. "Who took you?" Kale opened his mouth, trying to speak, but only two shaky words came out. "Dark ones." The room fell silent. Ethan and Lena exchanged a worried look. They both knew what that name meant. Pirates and traders who hunted rare creatures for power. A group feared across the galaxy. Ethan felt his stomach twist. He gently touched Kale's hand. "I won't let anyone take you again." Lena nodded in agreement. "We'll keep you safe." Kale looked at them, eyes wide with hope. Slowly, he reached out and placed one tiny clawed hand on Ethan's arm, another on Lena's. The gesture was small, but full of trust. Ethan smiled gently. "We should let you rest." Kale curled up on the bed again, tucking his wings close. His eyes closed slowly, the soft glow of his scales fading as he drifted into sleep. Ethan stood and pulled Lena to the side. "We can't keep this secret forever." "I know," she whispered. "But for tonight, we keep him safe." Ethan looked at Kale one more time. The little dragon breathed softly, peaceful for the first time since Ethan found him. But outside the station, far beyond the mining moon, danger was already approaching. Ships were moving in the dark, and they were looking for the missing dragon child. The morning on Arden 6 came slowly, with the dim station lights rising to a soft gray. Ethan barely slept. He sat in a chair near the bed where Kale still rested, curled in a small ball. The dragon child looked peaceful, but Ethan knew that peace would not last. Lena entered quietly. She carried a small scanner and a worried look. "I checked the outer sensors," she said softly. 3 ships entered the system last night. None of them sent identification codes. Even without thinking, Ethan knew what that meant. "They're searching for him." Lena nodded. "And they're good at tracking. They probably followed his trail all the way here." She glanced at Kale. "We don't have much time." As if hearing them, Kale stirred awake. His silver eyes opened slowly. He sat up and looked around in confusion, then relaxed when he saw Ethan and Lena. "Morning," Ethan said gently. "Are you feeling better?" Kale nodded timidly. He reached out and held onto Ethan's sleeve. Even that small gesture showed how scared he still was. Lena crouched near the bed. "Kale, we need to ask something important. Did the Dark Ones follow you here?" Kale pressed his small hands together. "Yes." Ethan's chest tightened. "How close are they?" Kale closed his eyes, as if trying to sense something. Then his eyes opened again. "Close. Very close." Lena stood quickly. "We need to move." Before Ethan could answer, the entire station shook violently. A loud alarm blared through the speakers. Red lights flashed in the hallway. A mechanical voice echoed. "Unidentified ships have entered landing zone. All personnel stay inside. Security teams report immediately." Ethan's heart started pounding. He ran to the window. Outside, 3 dark ships hovered near the landing platform. They were black and sharp-edged, marked with the symbol of a broken circle. "Obsidian Circle," Lena whispered. "They really came." Ethan grabbed his jacket and turned to Kale. "We need to leave. Right now." Kale jumped off the bed, fear in his eyes. He clung to Ethan's arm as if afraid to let go. They opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Workers rushed past them, confused and scared. No one knew what was happening. No one suspected a dragon child was the reason. A section of the ceiling shook as the station took another impact. Lena pulled Ethan toward the service tunnels. "This way. They won't scan the lower levels easily." The 3 of them ran down a narrow staircase. Kale moved quickly, but his small feet struggled on the metal steps. Ethan lifted him onto his hip and kept running. They entered the dark tunnels beneath the station. Only a few emergency lights glowed along the walls. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. The sound of alarms faded, replaced by the distant thumping of heavy boots above. Lena stopped suddenly and held up her hand. "Listen." Ethan heard it too. Metallic footsteps, multiple, moving in a hunting pattern. Kale pressed himself against Ethan's chest. "They are here," he whispered. Ethan and Lena hid behind a large ventilation pipe. Moments later, shapes appeared at the far end of the tunnel. 3 armored hunters walked slowly, scanning the walls with long devices. Their helmets were smooth and dark, with glowing red lines that pulsed like living veins. "Life signatures faint," one of them said in a cold, electronic voice. "The heir is close." Ethan felt Cale tremble violently. He held the child tighter and whispered, "Don't move. We're not letting them take you." The hunters continued walking, checking each corridor. Lena leaned in close. "We need to get to the mining lifts. They lead outside. We can escape through the old landing zone." Ethan nodded. "You lead. I'll keep him safe." They waited until the hunters moved farther away, then slipped quietly in the opposite direction. Their footsteps were soft against the metal floor. They reached the mining lift, an old rusty platform that shook whenever it moved. Ethan pressed the button. The door slid open with a loud screech. Lena winced. That was too loud. Shouts echoed down the tunnel. "Movement detected." "They heard us," Ethan said. He pushed Lena inside and then stepped in with Cale. The lift door began closing, but a blast struck the frame, shaking the entire platform. Cale gasped and buried his face against Ethan. "Go, go!" Lena shouted. Ethan slammed the emergency lever. The lift dropped fast, rushing downward into the deep mining shaft. For a moment they were safe, but above them, the hunters were already climbing down the tunnel walls, moving like shadows. They were not giving up. They wanted Cale, and they were getting closer. Ethan held the child tightly as the lift shook and rattled. "Don't worry," he whispered. "I won't let them take you. I promise." Cale's small hand held onto Ethan's shirt, trembling. The hunters' echoes followed them into the darkness, growing louder every passing second. And Ethan knew the rail chase had only just begun. The mining lift shook as it reached the lower levels of the station, coming to a rough stop. The door slid open slowly, releasing a burst of cold, dusty air. Ethan stepped out first, holding Cale close, while Lena followed behind, checking the shadows. This part of the station was old and rarely used. The walls were covered in rust, and the lights flickered weakly. Broken machines and unused mining tools were scattered everywhere. "We should keep moving," Lena said quietly. "The hunters will track the lift's movement." Ethan nodded. He tightened his hold on Cale, who was shaking but silent. The child's small head rested against Ethan's shoulder, trusting him fully. They walked deeper into the old mining tunnels. The air was colder here, and the sound of dripping water echoed down long, empty corridors. Ethan kept looking over his shoulder, expecting the dark shapes of the hunters to appear at any moment. "Ethan," Lena whispered suddenly. "Stop." They froze. The tunnel ahead split into 3 paths. Lena crouched and touched the floor. Footsteps. Lots of them. "Looks like some hunters already passed through here." Cale looked up at Ethan with worried eyes. "They will find us. They always find me." Ethan knelt and touched the child's cheek gently. "Not this time. We won't let them." Lena pointed to the left tunnel. "This way leads to the old storage caverns. We can hide there for a while and plan our next move." They turned left and walked quickly. The cavern they entered was huge, with high ceilings and rows of abandoned mining carts. Old lights hung from wires overhead, swinging slightly in the cold breeze. Ethan set Cale down on one of the carts. "Do you need a break?" Cale nodded, breathing heavily. His scales were glowing faintly, but they looked dimmer than before. Lena frowned. "He's exhausted. Whatever power he used to escape, it drained him." Ethan sat beside Cale. "We just need to keep him safe long enough to get him off this moon." Cale tugged gently at Ethan's sleeve. "You help me." "Why?" Ethan smiled softly. "Because you're a child, and no child should go through what you did." Cale looked down at his claws. "Humans are kind?" Lena sat on the other side. "Some of us try to be." Suddenly, a loud clank echoed through the cavern. They all froze. After a moment, another sound followed. Slow, steady footsteps. Ethan whispered, "They found us." He grabbed Cale and motioned to Lena. They hid behind a stack of metal crates. The footsteps grew louder. 3 hunters entered the cavern. Their dark armor glinted under the swinging lights. One carried a scanner device glowing red. "Life signs detected," the hunter said. His voice was cold and metallic. "The heir is near." Cale's breath shook. Ethan held him close, whispering, "Stay quiet. Stay with me." Lena pointed silently at a small opening near the ground, a maintenance vent. It was narrow but big enough for them to crawl through. Ethan nodded. He moved slowly, trying not to make noise. The hunters were searching the room, scanning each corner. Just as they reached the vent, Cale's scales flickered again. The lights above them glowed brighter for a moment. One of the hunters looked up. Energy surge detected. Ethan quickly slid into the vent, pulling Cale in. Lena followed behind and closed the grate softly. Inside the vent, it was dark and cramped. They crawled quietly through the metal tunnel. Ethan could hear the hunters outside. "Search again," one commanded. "The heir is close. He cannot escape." Lena whispered, "We have to reach the exit shafts. If we can climb up from the other side, we'll reach the surface." Ethan nodded and kept moving. Cale crawled between them, small but determined. As they moved deeper into the vent, the metal above them suddenly rang loudly. Footsteps. The hunters were walking directly above them. Ethan held his breath, praying they wouldn't hear. Then, a loud metallic bang echoed. Something heavy had dropped onto the vent. Cale covered his mouth to stop himself from crying. Lena whispered, "Keep going. Faster." Ethan led them through the narrow path until they reached another grate. He pushed it open and they crawled into another tunnel. This one was wider and colder, with a faint breeze blowing through it. "We're close to the outside," Lena said. "Good. Once we reach the old landing zone, we can find a way off this rock." Ethan carried Cale again. "We're almost there, kid. Hold on." They walked forward, but then saw something that made them stop. The tunnel ahead was lit with a soft golden glow, and blocking the way was a massive shape. A giant dragon. Its wings were torn, and its golden scales were cracked. Blood dripped down its side. It looked weak, but its eyes burned with fierce purpose. Ethan stepped back in fear. Lena grabbed his arm. Cale gasped. "Guardian!" The giant dragon lowered itself to the ground, shaking but holding its gaze steady on them. "Human, bring me the heir," the dragon said in a deep, trembling voice. Ethan's heart pounded. This dragon wasn't here to harm Cale. It was here to protect him. Part 5 content will be written here. The sun slowly set behind the broken hills of the silent moon, spreading a soft orange glow across the metal wreckage left from ancient battles. In the faint light, the small camp Daniel had built looked warm and safe, even if the world around it was not. Daniel stood near the fire, checking the cooking pot while the young dragon kid, Aaron, sat quietly nearby. Aaron watched the fire with wide, glowing eyes. He looked calmer now, but there was still fear in his small face. Daniel tried to smile at him. "Dinner will be ready soon," Daniel said in a soft voice. Aaron nodded slowly. He held the blanket Daniel gave him tightly around his shoulders. "Thank you," he whispered. Daniel sat across from him. The silence between them was gentle, not uncomfortable. But Daniel could feel Aaron wanting to say something. Finally, Aaron lifted his head. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," Daniel replied. "Why did you help me?" Aaron asked. His small voice was confused. "You didn't know who I was. You still don't. But you helped me without fear." "Why?" Daniel thought for a moment. The fire cracked softly. "Because you were crying. Because you were alone. And because helping someone is the right thing to do," he said simply. "You're just a kid. Being scared is normal. I couldn't just walk away." Aaron looked down again. "Most people run when they see a dragon," he whispered. "Even in my small form, they fear us." He paused. "You didn't." Daniel shrugged lightly. "I was raised to help anyone who needs it, human or not." He glanced at Aaron. "Besides, you looked like you needed a friend more than anything." Aaron's eyes softened. A small spark of warmth touched his expression for the first time. They ate dinner quietly, but the silence felt lighter now. The wind brushed softly against the camp as the stars began to rise. Later, when Aaron finally slept, Daniel stayed awake. He looked out over the silent land. Something in his heart felt strange, like he was stepping into something big, something he did not understand yet. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A deep, rumbling sound shook the valley. Daniel stood quickly and looked up at the night sky. A massive shadow passed over the moon's surface. It was not a ship. It was something alive. A creature covered in bright golden scales swept across the sky, its wings large enough to block the stars. Its roar thundered through the air, rolling over the land like a storm. Daniel froze. What in the world? Another roar followed. Then another. More shadows appeared. More glowing scales. More wings. A group of giant dragons soared above the camp, each one larger than any ship Daniel had ever seen. Their bodies glowed with colors of gold, blue, and white. Their eyes scanned the land below with sharp focus. Daniel's heart pounded. "Aaron, is this your family?" he whispered. The air shook again as the biggest dragon descended. Its golden wings folded slowly, and its feet hit the ground with a powerful quake. Daniel stumbled back. The dragon bent down, lowering its massive head toward the camp. Aaron woke up from the noise. He looked up, and his eyes widened in shock. "Father," he whispered. The giant dragon's eyes softened. Daniel's breath caught. "Father," he repeated quietly. Aaron stepped forward. Daniel watched the boy's form begin to glow. His small body lifted slightly from the ground, and golden energy spiraled around him. In a soft flash, Aaron shifted back into a young dragon, much smaller than the others but clearly royal. His wings shimmered with the same golden light. The giant dragon lowered its head further and touched Aaron gently. Daniel watched in disbelief. He had not just rescued a dragon kid. He had rescued the last royal descendant of the Dragon Emperor. The giant dragon slowly turned its glowing eyes toward Daniel. Daniel felt the full weight of that gaze. He did not move. He did not run. He simply waited. After a long moment, the giant dragon spoke in a deep, powerful voice. "Human, you protected my son. You comforted him when he was lost. For that, you have earned the respect of the Empire." The ground was still trembling from the arrival of the great dragons. Daniel stood frozen, feeling the weight of their presence. Their wings folded slowly as they landed in a circle around the camp. The air felt heavy and warm, almost like it was filled with living fire. Aaron stayed close to his father, his small dragon body glowing softly. He looked safe now, safe in a way he hadn't looked since Daniel first found him crying on the silent moon. Daniel swallowed hard. He did not know what to do or say. He simply stood still as the dragons watched him. The Dragon Emperor, the largest dragon of them all, lowered his head again. His golden scales shone like sunlight even in the dark. "You showed kindness when others would have turned away," the Emperor said. His voice was deep, yet calm. "You cared for my son with no thought of reward. That act holds great meaning for us." Daniel slowly nodded, though his heart was racing. "I just did what anyone should do," he said. His voice was quiet, but steady. The Emperor watched him carefully. "Do you believe most humans would have done the same?" he asked. Daniel hesitated. "No," he admitted softly. "Maybe not, but I could not leave him there alone." Aaron stepped forward, his small wings folding at his sides. "He helped me," he said. "He protected me. He did not treat me like a monster. He treated me like a person." The dragons around them rumbled quietly. It was not anger. It sounded more like approval. The Emperor looked at Aaron, and a warm, gentle sound came from his chest. Then he turned back to Daniel. "Human," the Emperor said, "I am in your debt. That is not something I say lightly. Our empire has long watched humanity from afar. We have seen conflict. We have seen fear. But today, we have seen something rare." Daniel did not know what to say. He took a slow breath. "I didn't do anything special," he said quietly. "You did," Aaron said. You saved me. Before Daniel could answer, the sky suddenly lit up with bright red flashes. The dragons all looked upward. Ships, human ships. Several large vessels shot through the clouds, their engines glowing bright red. They were heavily armed, and they were heading straight for the dragons. Daniel's eyes widened. No, no, no. This can't be good. One of the smaller dragons growled. Humans are attacking. They think we are here for war. Daniel raised his hands. Wait. They don't understand. They don't know what's happening. They're scared. You have to give me a minute. Let me talk to them. The Emperor watched the ships carefully. They aim their weapons at us. They prepare for battle. Why should we trust them? Because I'm human, Daniel said. His voice shook a little, but he stepped forward. And you trusted me. Let me talk to them. I can fix this. The Emperor studied him for a long moment. Aaron stepped forward. Father, let him try. The Emperor finally nodded. Very well. You may speak. But be warned, if they attack, we will defend ourselves. Daniel looked up at the ships. The red glow from their engines grew stronger. He ran to his bag and pulled out his small communicator. His hands shook as he turned it on. This is Daniel Carter, he said quickly. To any human ship above the silent moon, hold your fire. I repeat, hold your fire. There was static. Then a hard, cold voice responded. Daniel Carter, your signal is received. Are you safe? We are detecting multiple hostile life forms near your position. Daniel looked back at the dragons. They're not hostile, he shouted. They're not here to attack us. The voice hesitated. Daniel, those are dragons. The same species responsible for 3 border conflicts in the last 10 years. Daniel stepped forward, raising his voice. I'm telling you, they're not attacking. I'm standing right next to them. If they wanted to hurt me, I'd be gone already. A long silence followed. The ships slowed. Their weapons still glowed, but they did not fire. The Emperor watched Daniel, silent but curious. Finally, the voice came again. Daniel, you need to step away from them. We are preparing to engage. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. No, listen to me. The small one, the young dragon, you scared him when you came down here. He's just a kid, and his father is here to get him. They're not starting a war. They're protecting their child. Another silence. Daniel held his breath. Finally, the voice responded, softer. Explain everything. Carefully. Daniel exhaled. He turned back toward the dragons. He had bought a little time, but only a little. The Emperor lowered his head again. Your people fear us, human, and now we see yours are not so different from ours. They protect their own as we do. Daniel nodded. Yes, but we need them to understand. Otherwise, this will turn into a fight no one wants. Aaron stepped closer to Daniel. I trust you, he said. I know you can stop this. Daniel felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He looked up at the sky. War was one wrong move away, and he was standing in the middle of it. Daniel stood between 2 worlds. The human ships above, tense and ready to fire, and the circle of dragons around him, powerful and watchful. The wind carried the heat of dragon breath and the cold static of human calms. Both sides waited for one wrong word. He wiped his palms on his clothes and lifted his communicator again. This is Daniel Carter. I'm going to explain everything. Just listen. No one fires. No one moves. His voice trembled slightly, but he forced it steady. The response came with static. We are listening. Proceed. The tone was cautious, not yet trusting. Daniel took a breath. The young dragon you saw, his name is Aaron. He is just a child. He was scared, lost, and alone when I found him. He wasn't attacking anyone. He was crying. You cannot point weapons at a kid. Not human, not dragon. The dragons rumbled quietly around him, listening. He continued, speaking slowly. The large dragon with golden scales is the Dragon Emperor. Aaron is his son, his only heir. They came here only to find him, not to start a war. The line went silent. One of the smaller ships moved slightly, engines humming louder, but no weapons fired. Daniel, the voice said finally. If this is true, then this is a high-risk political situation. Any mistake could put entire worlds in danger. Daniel looked at Aaron and then at the Emperor. I know, he said. That's why I'm asking you to trust me. The Emperor lowered his head again, watching Daniel with ancient, glowing eyes. He seemed calm, but Daniel could feel the power in him, like a living storm held back by a thin thread. Human ships, the Emperor said suddenly. His deep voice echoed across the silent moon. I speak to you now. You aim your weapons at my family, but your soldier stands before me unafraid. He gave safety to my child when others would have fled. That alone earns him honor. He paused, his wings shifting slightly. If you value peace, listen to him. The humans did not respond at first. Daniel felt his heart pounding. After a long pause, the voice returned. We are evaluating. Daniel almost groaned. Evaluating? He whispered. What else do they need? Aaron walked up beside him, still in his dragon form. He gently nudged Daniel's hand with his snout. Do not give up, Aaron said softly. You helped me before. You can help now. Daniel knelt beside him. I'm trying, buddy. He touched Aaron's warm scales. But humans panic fast. They see danger even when it's not there. Like dragons do, Aaron whispered. Daniel blinked. That simple sentence hit him harder than any shout. Both sides were the same. Fearful, protective, confused. The communicator crackled again. Daniel, command wants visual confirmation. You will activate your suit cam. Daniel sighed with relief. A request, not an attack. Copy. Turning it on now. He tapped his chest, and a small lens blinked to life. The feed went straight to the ships above. He stepped back so they could see him standing between the dragons. This is the Dragon Emperor, Daniel said, pointing gently. He is not attacking. He is waiting, and he is only here for his son. The Emperor bowed his head slowly toward the camera, a gesture of peace. This is Aaron, Daniel continued, gesturing to the small dragon beside him. He is the kid you almost fired on. Look at him. He's not a threat. He's just scared. Aaron looked at the lens shyly, wings folded. The humans went silent again. Finally, the voice spoke. We see it. We acknowledge it. Stand by while we consult command. Daniel let out a breath. Great. More waiting. The Emperor leaned closer. You have done well, human. Your courage is unusual. Daniel chuckled nervously. Courage? I'm terrified. Courage is not the absence of fear, the Emperor said. It is choosing to act despite it. Before Daniel could reply, a new voice came over the communicator. Older, firmer. This is Admiral Lane. Daniel Carter, your footage has been reviewed. A diplomatic approach is now authorized. You are to mediate until our envoys arrive. Daniel blinked. Wait me? I'm a mechanic, not a diplomat. You are the only one both sides trust, the Admiral said. That makes you the diplomat. Daniel turned slowly toward the dragons. Their glowing eyes focused on him. He turned back toward the sky. The human ships waited. In that moment, Daniel realized he stood in the center of something far bigger than he'd ever imagined. A human, a mechanic, a nobody, and yet, the fate of peace between two great forces now rested on him. The Emperor spoke softly. We stand ready to talk, Daniel. Guide us wisely. Daniel breathed in, then out. Okay, he whispered. Let's make sure nobody blows up the galaxy today. Daniel stood still, feeling the weight of every eye, human and dragon, focused on him. The silent moon lived up to its name once more. There was no more roaring, no more shouting, no more engine fire, only quiet waiting. He took a slow breath and lifted his communicator. This is Daniel Carter. The dragons are ready to talk. They want peace, not war. I'm going to guide the meeting until the envoys arrive. His voice felt steadier than he expected. Copy that, Daniel, Admiral Lane replied. We are sending a landing shuttle. Maintain calm. Daniel lowered the device and turned toward the Emperor. The humans agreed. A shuttle is coming. The Emperor nodded slowly. Then we will meet them with open wings. No harm will come from us, unless harm is forced upon us. Daniel looked at Aaron, who stood close beside him. You all right? Aaron nodded. I am not afraid anymore. You're here, and my father is here. I'm safe. Daniel placed a gentle hand on the small dragon's head. Good. Just stay close to me. This part might be a little scary too, but we'll get through it. Above them, the shuttle descended through the thin clouds, its engines glowing a soft blue instead of the threatening red from before. It landed carefully, stirring dust but nothing more. The ramp opened, and 3 humans stepped out. 2 guards and a diplomat in a simple gray uniform. Daniel recognized the diplomat Mira Holt. She was calm, sharp-minded, and known for negotiating impossible deals. She approached Daniel with quick steps. You've done well holding this together, she whispered. Daniel gave a shaky smile. Honestly, I thought I'd faint. Don't, she said gently. You're in the middle of history. Then she faced the dragons. The Emperor lowered his head, not in submission but in formal respect. His scales shimmered softly in the light. I am the Dragon Emperor, he said. This is my heir, Aaron. We come seeking peace after fear separated us. Mira bowed her head. I am Mira Holt. I speak for the human fleet. We are honored to meet you. Daniel stepped between both sides. There was a misunderstanding. Humans saw dragons and panicked. Dragons saw humans and panicked. The only one who wasn't panicking was Aaron, and he was just crying. A small rumble of amusement passed through the dragons. Even Mira smiled. Let us speak clearly, the Emperor said. My son escaped during a surprise attack on one of our border stations. He fled through space, afraid and alone. We searched every system to find him. When we entered this moon sky, we saw your ships and feared you had captured him. Mira nodded. Our sensors detected unusual energy signatures and assumed it was a threat. We acted without understanding. That was our mistake. Daniel looked between both sides. See? No villains here. No war. Just scared parents and scared soldiers making fast decisions. The Emperor looked at Mira closely. Your people pointed weapons at my child. Mira lowered her gaze. And you arrived with the strength to destroy us. Yet you did not. That means there is hope for peace. The Emperor slowly unfolded his wings halfway, a dragon gesture of open intention. We only want safe borders and mutual respect. If your people agree, then peace is possible. Mira took a breath. I believe they will, and Daniel here will be mentioned in every report. Without him, this would have ended very differently. Daniel scratched the back of his neck. I just helped a kid who was crying. Anyone would. Aaron nudged him gently. Not anyone. You. Before he could answer, Mira spoke again. Dragon Emperor, would you allow a formal treaty meeting? A real one. Not here, but on neutral ground. The Emperor glanced at Aaron, then at Daniel. If the human who cared for my son is present, then yes, we will attend. Daniel blinked. Me? At a treaty table. You are the bridge that brought us here, the Emperor said. Your presence will remind both sides of the truth we often forget. That peace begins with small kindness. Daniel didn't know what to say. His throat felt tight. Then Aaron shifted back into his small human-like form and took Daniel's hand. Will you come? He asked. Daniel squeezed his hand gently. Yeah, I'll come. Mira smiled at him. Then it's settled. We will arrange a meeting. The Emperor stepped back, his wings spreading wide. We return home now. We will await your call. Aaron looked up at Daniel. Will I see you again? Daniel nodded. Of course. I'm not going anywhere. Aaron hugged him tightly. Daniel hugged him back, feeling a warm spark of emotion he couldn't explain. The dragons rose into the sky, wings beating like thunder. The Emperor gave Daniel one last nod of respect before lifting off. The sky filled with golden and blue light as they disappeared among the clouds. Mira walked up beside Daniel as he watched them leave. You realize, she said, you just prevented a war. A real one. Daniel laughed softly. I still feel like a guy who just helped a lost kid in the woods. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needed, she replied. The wind settled. The silent moon grew quiet again. Daniel looked at the sky where the dragons vanished. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel like a leader. He just felt relieved and hopeful, because somewhere out there, a young dragon named Aaron was safe. And peace, however fragile, had begun with a single act of kindness.